Thank you everyone for coming out today. Just want to have a few comments before I turn it over to Coach Larry Gipson. Mentor, teacher, respected, competitive, caring, gracious, philosophical, analytical, and excellence are only a few terms to describe the coach and person that personify Larry Gipson. Larry has reached the pinnacle of his career by winning 2 national championships and serving as president of college men's basketball's national organization, the NABC. He's one of the most well-respected basketball coaches in the nation, and I will personally miss working with him on a daily basis. I anticipate Larry will excel in the next stage of his life as he did during his 40 years in the business. I have a few observations before I turn it over to Larry that I think have really resonated with me as I've reflected over his decision here the last couple of days. I've been in the business now for 22 years, and 10 of those 22 years I had the privilege of being a head men's basketball coach and sat in the chair where Larry sits today. And I guess I would still consider myself a student of the game. Being an individual that still likes to not only watch both our men's and women's basketball teams compete, but I like to watch how other programs do their business and how they handle themselves on the court when they're competing head-to-head with us, or watching on television, as we can watch, seems like 10 games a night these days. And one thing that's always struck me throughout the years as a coach is just the unbelievable amount of uncertainty and lack of vision that I feel like a lot of coaches in this day and age have in terms of how their teams go out and play. And it was incredibly refreshing to me when I arrived here 3 years ago and started watching Larry on a daily basis with his team and watching them compete and talking to him about basketball, that he has a very, very clear philosophy on how to coach and play the game. And that was and he did it the right way, and he's continuing to do it the right way. And so that's something that I've always appreciated in my short time with Larry. You know, when we started a series of conversations that began last Monday, and we started talking about potentially kind of where his mind was in terms of his future as it relates to him coming to me, and started talking about the possibility of retiring. If there's any, one of the things that really stuck with me is we had some additional conversations throughout the week. Is he was very clear with me he did not want this announcement to come in advance of last Saturday. And those of you that know what last Saturday was, that was the 29th NSU Athletics Hall of Fame. He didn't in any way want this announcement to trump those 5 inductees and what they represent. So I think that speaks awfully well of his character and where he feels like things are. Those that were in attendance heard one of his former players, Wes Pickock, and it would have been, we probably could have just played his audio to talk about leading into this, because I think we all had a good inside view of what it was for a 4-year player to play under his mentorship, and I know that meant a lot to Coach Gipson, but it certainly, I think, meant a lot to the individuals that were in that room to hear exactly a little bit more of the inside look at what Coach Gipson's all about. An interesting thing about NSU basketball, those of you that are in a little bit of history, it's an interesting point to note that the last 31 years, there have only been 2 coaches sit in that chair. You know, you think about obviously the success that Larry Gipson's had with bringing NSU our only Division II national championship. Ken Hayes prior to Larry being named head men's basketball coach. Then there was a couple of years where there was a little bit of in and out, but you think even back to Dr. Jack Dobbins and his time coaching this program from 1959 to 1980. That's a pretty cool thing to think about, those 3 guys and the shadow, if you will, that those men will cast on this program for years to come. The last comment I have to make before I turn it over to our soon-to-be retiree is one thing about Larry, as good of a coach as he is, Larry Gipson's even a better man. So this time, Larry Gipson.
appreciate everybody coming out today. I didn't know what to expect. It's like an athletic department meeting, I guess. And I suppose that's appropriate at Northeastern State because we work so closely together, and it's been a blessing for me to work with the wonderful people I've worked with. I got a few things that I want to say in no particular order. I was joking around with some of the coaches when I walked in, you guys need to pay attention because we all kind of anticipate getting a job and being fired up about that job and what we're going to say at the press conference. None of us sit around and anticipate when we're leaving and retiring in that press conference. So I do have some things I would like to say. On my refrigerator, like a lot of people do, we put up different pictures of people that are important to us and events that have happened. There's a picture of a 21-year-old kid. On my refrigerator, he wasn't a very good player. He was probably a pain in the neck to his coaches, but he might be my favorite player. And I look at that picture every day, and I wonder if that 21-year-old kid, I see, it was taken his senior year in college, in his basketball uniform with a basketball down in the old triple threat position. And every day I think I got to live up to the expectations of that kid. I got to live up to it. I wonder what he would think about, wonder what his thoughts were at the time. I wonder if he could anticipate some of the things that were going to happen to him. Now as a 62-year-old man, looking back on my life, I realize what a charmed life I've led. My wife couldn't be here today, Jennifer. She's visiting. She made arrangements 2 months ago to visit her mother on her 85th birthday, which is today. All the kids gathered in Florida, so she's not here. But this 62-year-old guy married his high school sweetheart. We've been, in August, it'll be 40 years that we've been married. That's a blessing in and of itself. That 21-year-old kid really wanted to coach basketball because he was a factory worker's kid, blue-collar kid that fell in love with sports, not coming from a particularly focused athletic family. For some reason, he was the oldest. He decided that he liked baseball, then he liked basketball. Fell in love, had great coaches that nurtured him when he was in junior high school, and he wanted to be a coach because of the impact those guys had on his life. And he became a basketball coach. All he ever wanted to be was a basketball coach. Started in high school, had some success, then all he wanted to do was try to get to college. It was a simple path for that young man to get to college. He sold everything he owned, took a $20,000 pay cut, moved 1,000 miles away from where he grew up, met Nolan Richardson, got a job working for him, making nothing, voluntary job. Ran into a legend, Henry Iba, met Mr. Iba, just simply talked basketball with him. Junior college job opened up in the state. A 21-year-old kid, now 30, got that job. First junior college game he ever saw was the one he coached in. Think about that. Think about that. Had a chance to coach at all levels. I mean, by now you know that 21-year-old kid is this 62-year-old man standing in front of you. I've been involved in basketball since I was in the 6th grade. Earliest memories of basketball, even in the 4th and 5th grade, taking a YMCA bus from Marion, Ohio to Columbus and getting to see Jerry Lucas and John Havlicek play. A guy by the name of Bob Knight on that team. I played high school, coached high school, played in Division III, coached in junior college, coached at the Division I level, coached at the Division II level. I even joked that I was an NAIA coach because the first year I was here we were on the bubble and we couldn't go anywhere, so we were pseudo NAIA, pseudo to Division II. Tony's documented, what our teams have done, but I've coached underachieving teams, I've coached overachieving teams. But the biggest thing I can say is it's not the winning and the losing, but it's the people that have passed through my life that have been the most meaningful. Henry Iba is a legend. took me under his wing. He spent a lot of time with me, spent time at his house, learned a tremendous amount from him. But another guy in Oklahoma that took me under his wing was Bill Allen, legendary Webster High School coach. Had junior college coach by the name of Bud Presley in California did the same thing. So it's been a great opportunity to me. The young men that I've coached, the colleagues that I've spent time with, have all been instrumental in getting me to this place. I will address why I think it's time for me to quit. There are a couple people that know me know I read a lot. I've usually got 2 or 3 books going at the same time and a couple magazine articles. And when I was a young man starting out in the business, anything that had to do with coaching, any article on coaching, any article on any coach that had achieved success, I devoured. And I've got reams and reams, and I'm sure I don't know what I'm going to do with them, of articles stacked away in the attic at home in my office. But I read an article about Coach Bear Bryant, the legendary Alabama coach. And he said that when players came to him and asked if they should go into coaching, that he told them the only way you should coach, because it's so difficult, the only way you should coach is if you can't live without it. And I spent 1 year in my 40 years not coaching, and I decided that I couldn't live without it. I knew I couldn't live without it. And that's when I was fortunate enough to come here. But when I wake up today, going out on the court, working with them, organizing an offense or a defense, those things I feel comfortable with. But taking a bus trip to Kearney and Fort Hays, not so much. Suffering a tough loss and then getting in the car the next morning and going recruiting, not so much. So I think it's not fair to the university to not have a coach that can't live without it. And right now I feel like I can live without it. Another old coach that I really admired, lesser known maybe to some of you, was a guy by the name of Al McGuire. Al McGuire coached at Marquette in 1977. He won a national championship. 2 quotes I'd like to attribute that are attributable to him that I'd like to give you. His first quote I read was, "Old coaches are like old gunfighters. You don't get old in either business if you're not good." So I feel like I've had a good run, that I've been good at what I do, but I think it's the appropriate time. The second quote he said, because he retired at 47, 48 years old, he won the national championship. He said it's much better to quit early on your coaching career when you can do it on your terms than to quit too late when you're doing it on somebody else's terms. And I think that that's appropriate at this time. I told Cedric the other night when we talked, I'd rather quit 1 or 2. He asked me the question, don't you feel like you can keep going? You think you'll miss it? I said it's better to quit a year too early than 2 years too late. I want to go out where I have a very positive feeling about everything, and hopefully people have a positive feeling about me. A couple other reasons. My wife, as many people know, the most positive person I've ever met, has had MS for over 30 years, is never, I won't say she's never complained, but I can count on one hand the number of times she's complained. She got dealt a very tough blow. Her health is what it is. It's a chronic illness. I'm battling, my health issues are well documented in recent years, and I'm not out of the woods on that. It's not dire, it's more in her category, chronic. It's going to take some management, and I just felt like we're probably as healthy as we're going to be, and so it's a good time for us to both be as healthy as we're going to be and do some things that we've talked about doing. I knew it was the right decision when I told her, well, you know, everybody that retires says they're going to travel, and we're not in a position really where we're going to travel a lot. But I mentioned visiting some people, some friends we've had, and she mentioned, hey, that sounds pretty good, and she mentioned a friend of hers in particular. Can we go visit Margie and Tom? And I said, sure, we can go. Yeah, that sounds good. I think that's a good thing. One of those things that we've talked about but don't do. I'm sure I'll miss it. I'm sure I'll miss the excitement of it, the adrenaline rush of coaching. But I compared this to also with Cedric the other day and some other people. I coached at the Division I level, really didn't get out on my own terms. when I take teams back at Northeastern State and we walk into that big arena at Arkansas, or we walk in that big arena, wherever the case may be, Tulsa, Oklahoma University, Oral Roberts, and you see those people and they get up and cheer, that's an adrenaline rush where I'm going, maybe I need to work and get back to that level. And then I remember the things I didn't like about that level. And so I jokingly say, but with some seriousness, I'm going to be out here watching a game. Randy's team's going to win. The next guy's team's going to win. I'm going to go, man, that's great. I wish I could do that again. I'm also going to be paying attention when they're at Missouri Western or Fort Hays and they get beat in overtime or on a tip-in at the buzzer. And I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock my regular time. I'm going to go, God bless them. I hope they get back safe. I'll miss it, but I won't miss all of it. Finally, I would just like to thank some people, individuals and collectively a group. You don't know our parents. Our father's deceased, but we were given a great foundation. We were raised by people that taught us to work hard, be honest, encourage us in our endeavors. My dad didn't know anything about athletics. He left home when he was 17 years old, never came back. He was a guy, along with my mother, that grew up in the greatest generation. I don't think he missed a game, did he, Randy? He would come to every game and not know anything about the sport. He went and met with coaches, and I'm sure that they were a little concerned when he showed up, but he would meet with coaches and ask them if he could watch practice just because he wanted to learn what his kids were so interested in. And I forever respect my mother, father for doing what they did. They lived the American dream. Two people, one from a farm, one left home when he was 17, put 4 kids through college, and 3 of us have multiple degrees. I think that's the American success story. I told you I married my high school sweetheart. We've stuck together through thick and thin. We've had some ups and downs, but she's been a perfect coach's wife. After that first year of being a head coach, I was a high school head coach. We got beat in the tournament, playoffs, like every team does. She was crying after the game, and I told her, this is too tough a business. Don't ever worry about my games. You don't need to cry or be upset about my games. I don't even care if you're that interested in them. One of us is the only one of us needs to suffer. And she's taken that to heart. It's gotten tough for her to come to games because of mobility issues, but I really thank Jennifer for being in my life. I was raised with 3 siblings. We have a brother, Lee, who's 18 months younger than me, lives in Houston. Bill knows him. He's been down there with him. He's a lot like our dad, really enjoys having a good time. It's been a blessing for me to be with Randy for 23 of my 40 coaching years. We worked together at NEO. Never thought we would get back together again, and then lo and behold, it's here. Randy's wife, Pam, they moved. Jennifer and I got a chance to see Carly, their daughter, grow up from age 4 to now she's in Arkansas. And we have a sister, Marla, who is, of all things, a Catholic nun, has devoted her life to service. So I think I couldn't have asked for better siblings. Very supportive, very encouraging, and I'm sure I was a pain in the neck to them as the older brother, because when you're the oldest and you're asked to watch over the little ones, that's not something you really want to do from time to time. I could tell you a lot of stories, but I don't want to bore you with that. I want to thank all the coaches I've had. I've had 3 assistant coaches here. Scott Reed, Adam Moore did a tremendous job. Scott Reed even came back for a second dose, left and then came back. John Havens has been, John, you're as good a coach as I know. You're from a legendary coach's family. Your father Jerry is a great coach. Your brother Jay's doing a great job. Jay was here as a GA. I've learned a lot from you, and I really appreciate your contributions. And I say publicly, I'm sorry to put you up in the uncertainty that this business brings, but good people land on their feet, and I know things will work out for you. The colleagues in this room, I learn every time you open your mouth and say something. I pay attention. I feel like that every coach I can learn from. It's been enjoyable for me to be here, not only with you, but the ones that have gone before you. I honestly feel like, and I've said this publicly on several occasions, this is the best coaching staff that I've ever worked with, from top to bottom. Rob, you're just getting here. This is a great place. This is a great community and a great place. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying you're not going to have some challenges, but I'm saying it's a great place. The administration here, in my time, has been interesting. I just want to thank Dr. Turner and Dr. and Tony Duckworth. I gave you a title promotion there, Tony. I feel like right now it's the best combination, athletic director, president, that we've had. I like the direction of the university. I really like Tony's leadership and vision. I like his steady hand. And I'm not saying that for anything. I'm not getting a pay raise. I'm not getting a promotion. I firmly believe that. The fans and boosters here have been great. But I'd lastly like to thank every player that's ever played for me. I've heard from more than a dozen, and starting last night at about 6:15, Justin Barkley called me, and my phone's been either text beeps or phone beeps nonstop, and that means something to me, because the reason I got into coaching was because of the influence that my high school and junior high coaches had on me. And it's gratifying to know that in some small way, maybe I had some influence on that. I think I'll stop right there. I guess open it up to questions.
Yeah, we'll have Ben ask some questions. If anybody else wants to ask anything, just let me know and I'll give you the mic.
I can hear you, Ben.
Yeah, use the mic.
Alright. Just in case you couldn't hear me. You talked about Henry Iba. You two are the only coaches in this state to win multiple titles. What does something like that mean to you at the end of your career?
Well, you just put my name in a same sentence as Henry Iba. I think when you think about that 21-year-old kid who was aware of who Henry Iba was, if you would have said that to him, he would have said, "I'll take that career." I think he was the greatest of all coaches in that he transformed the game, his teaching. I think as near as I can understand the game of basketball, he was one of, when Tony made the statement about having a clear philosophy, he was the one that first identified a clear philosophy to give his team a chance to win. I remember very early in a conversation that I had with him, he said, "You can coach at Kansas, you can coach at UCLA, you're going to have better material. You name some high schools in the state, you're going to have better material." He said, "What are you going to do when you don't have better material? Can you come up with a philosophy and a theory and a sound way of approaching any athletic contest and give your kids a chance to win?" He says, "That's what you've got to do, give your kids a chance to win." So I think I paid attention. One of the proudest moments of my life was when we won a national championship in 2003, and Gene Iba, the then coach at Pittsburgh State, called me up, and Mr. Iba used to start at NEO and watch us practice for a few days. Then he'd go to Missouri and watch Norm Stewart practice. He'd go to Kansas State when Jack Hartman was there and watch him practice. Go down to UTEP and pay attention to Don Haskins, all these guys, former players of his, some connection. Then he'd stop in and watch Baylor practice where Gene was coaching at the time, his nephew, and he'd go to TCU where his son Mo was coaching. And Gene said he was at Baylor with him, and he said, "Oh, hell, you guys don't listen to me. I'm going back up to NEO. Larry pays attention." and Gene said, after watching that game, he looked at his wife, he goes, "Larry did pay attention." That's maybe the greatest compliment I've ever had. I think Henry Iba, and Bill Allen too, Randy could tell you this, the other thing they taught me was that it's more important to be a good person than a good basketball coach. It was more important to treat people the right way. Anywhere I'd go with Mr. Iba, I'd walked in restaurants where he got a standing ovation, and he was humble, he was touched by it, he was thankful, he was grateful. So I learned that from him, and just try to exemplify what he taught, what my parents taught me, and what good teachers and coaches taught me.
For some time now, you and Randy been here together. What's it gonna be like not coaching the game after him? What has all that meant to you for more than a decade now?
I can't. For some reason, when we grew up, my brother Randy was very close sibling. I think my brother Lee, we fought like cats and dogs until I left and went to college, and I think we both realized we missed each other, and we have a very close relationship now. But Randy was 5 years younger than me, so he was the guy I always tagged along. And it was like if Randy screwed up, I'd put a knot on his head or get upset, but nobody else could pick on Randy. And we were very close that way. And he's the closest friend I've got. He's been there for me, and I think it's been especially good because he's the only guy that can tell me when I'm screwing up that I think about. My first reaction when somebody criticizes me, this is why I think I was a pain in the ass to coaches. When they criticize me, my first reaction is to get upset, but not with Randy. He's been there through thick and thin, and I think it's benefited both of us in that we can bounce ideas off of each other. What it's going to be like, I think it's going to be an adjustment to both of us. I think Randy's life's going to be in a state of change just like mine is. The only difference is Randy's going to be pouring over game film, and I'm going to be at the golf course trying to get my handicap lower. So that's good.
You were 30-something away from Dobbins' all-time win mark here. Was there any thought in your mind to try and chase that?
No, I never worried about that. To be honest with you, I've never really thought about. I'm not stupid. I know when you get in a national championship game that it's a historical achievement if you win that game. So, yeah, I mean, I'm aware of that, and I'm aware of the things that people write about, that there's only two of us that have won an NJCA and NCAA and all that. I'm aware of all that, but in terms of chasing somebody's record, I've never felt that was that important. I know I did the job the best I could do it, and I'm comfortable with that. And what's the old saying? The softest pillow is a clean conscience. I know I tried hard, and I think I lived up to that, to what my mentors taught me.
Biggest accomplishment in your career, is it winning the national championship, coming back from cancer, or something maybe that no one even thinks about?
I think that I remember I had a great high school coach by the name of Dan Baker. Dan Baker, I'd gotten a job at NEO, and I got word that Dan Baker was dying from a brain tumor. And I drove to Ohio to see him. And when I came into the hospital room to talk to him, he made this statement to me, and this is what I think is the greatest accomplishment. He said that everybody then called me Gipper when I was a kid. And he said, Gipper, you don't realize how much this means to me. When my former players come back or give me a call, it's the greatest thing for an old coach. And that, I think, is the greatest accomplishment, that I still have some guys that call me and respect me enough to let me know that they're thinking about me. And there's nothing much I appreciate more than that.
Yeah, keep going.
In your career, can you think of most memorable game, season, anything like that?
Well, obviously, national championship games. I remember those, but I don't remember really the winning of the game isn't as important as some of the memories. I mean, we went to the national championship in 1989 in junior college. Now I'm young. There was an early snowstorm. 37 years old. We had a bus driver there, Randy knew well, by the name of Bob Halsey. Maybe you know him. The buses now are named Halsey 1 and Halsey 2 because he worked in the maintenance department. And I remember we got stuck. We're playing the next day for a national championship. We're stuck on a road in Hutch, and Bob says the whole team's going to have to get out and push the bus. So we're all back there pushing the bus, and I thought, we're playing a national championship game tomorrow, and we're pushing the daggone bus. I mean, those are the kind of things that you remember more than the actual games. I'll say this, I'm not going to name my favorite player, my favorite team, or anything like that, but my two favorite teams at each of those schools are not the national championship teams. They're two teams that came out of nowhere, had one starter back, and I'll give you a hint. That starter went in the Hall of Fame Saturday, and they went to they went to the national tournament, coming out of nowhere. And the same thing occurred. Randy and I, we were in Allen County, ready to give up our college coaching career because we had just gotten beat, and we had a group of kids that came together and got us into the regional finals. Those are great achievements too.
At what point this year, did you really sit down and start thinking about retirement? Was there a certain point? Was it the season or what?
I don't know. I'd always told Tony that we would do it at the end of the year, that I'd sit down every year, and we kind of had a casual conversation in the fall about it, about what direction we wanted to go, or just, the day's coming, I'll let you know. The timing is such that at Northeastern State or in the state of Oklahoma, you got to turn some paperwork in by April 1st, so it's not like I had a long time. I could finish the season and have a long time to think about it. I got, I say, a C+ report from my urologist on an issue, and I felt like, it's the appropriate time. Really, I remember coming back. We outscored Harding 9-0 in the last 27 seconds. And we'd gotten beat the night before by Arkansas Tech. And I was sitting there thinking, the Arkansas Tech game hurt a heck of a lot more than this miracle finish makes me feel good. Maybe it's just time to think about doing something else.